Hold on. You gonna get some more?
Hey, Will, how you doing?
Good, how are you, man?
What are you about?
Monica. No beer.
I got you.
How about you?
Rezone.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, did you? Well, hopefully that'll be the end of it.
Call this meeting of the Union County Land Use Board for Tuesday, September 17th into order. First item is to stand, everyone, please, as we will say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing, please.
At this time, I'd ask our Vice Chairman, Mr. Rick Davis, to open us in prayer.
Before I open the prayer, I'd like to share some information that the County Manager, Brian Matthews, sent out in regard to one of our colleagues, one of our brother employees. And this is from the email that the manager sent out. I'm sad to share with you that we lost one of our own, Jesse Langston, an inspector with the Building Code Enforcement who passed away on September 15, 2024. Jesse was 43 years old and had been with our organization since October 2012. Jesse began his career with Union County as a residential inspector before transferring to the commercial team. In addition to conducting field inspections, Jesse was responsible for commercial plan review and was extremely proficient with North Carolina building codes. Jesse's knowledge will not be easily replaced and he will be greatly missed. His work helped ensure the safety of Union County and residents and businesses alike. Those who worked closely with Jesse said he was an avid knife and coin collector who enjoyed playing the guitar, spent his spare time in restoring his 1968 Chevrolet C10. Jesse lived in Wingate with his family. He had a daughter, Shauna, who was 20 years old, and a son, Jared, who was 18 years old. Morgan Son Funeral Home in Marshall will serve the family. The obituary has not yet been published. It is never easy to lose a colleague. Please join me in keeping Jesse's family and friends in your thoughts and prayers. Let's just have a moment of silence for him, please. Our Father, we come to you tonight, Lord, just asking for leadership and guidance in our decisions in this meeting tonight, Lord. Lord, we just want to be fair and honest to the county and the residents of the county in the decisions we make and follow the guidelines that we have. We pray that you'll give us assurance and the decisions we make will be according to the guidelines we have to go by. Lord, I thank you for the blessings you bestowed upon us, and I pray that you'll be with each member here tonight and each visitor that's with us tonight. Lord, put your hedge of protection around each one, that we'll all return home safely, and everything will go good for us, Lord. Lord, we thank you for your blessings, and we ask these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome everyone here tonight. Okay. My name is Darren Green. I'm the chairman of the Land Use Board. Also sitting on the board today is our vice chairman, Mr. Davis, Mr. Derek Austin, Mr. Larry Britt, Mr. Dion Edwards, Mr. Doug McClue, Mr. Mark Tilley, Mr. Francis Ward. No, not here. I will not tell y'all who put that name. Our alternates, Mr. David Brooks and Mr. Charles Walkup. Also with us tonight is our Lee Jensen, who is the planning director for Union County, Mr. Jim King, who is our senior planner, Bjorn Hansen, also senior planner, Amy Griffin, who is our clerk to the Union County Land Board, among other things. and Ms. Kelly Cope, who is the attorney for the Land Use Board. Our board hears three different types of issues in addition to our role as the zoning board. And I'll get into that in a minute, but first is an application for variance from regulations in the zoning ordinance, or an appeal from a decision interpretation of the zoning administrator, or an application for special use permit. The order of each case will go as follows. All parties who plan to give sworn testimony, pro or con, must complete the green form to speak and be sworn in. A planning staff member will explain why a permit was denied, or why a variance is requested, or the nature of the special use permit application. The board may question the planning staff member. The applicant may question the planning staff member, and then the applicant presents their testimony for the case. The board may question the applicant. The planning staff and persons in opposition may also question the applicant. The applicant may present sworn witnesses. They will be subject to cross-examination. Other parties wishing to speak, pro or con, will be given reasonable time to present sworn testimony. They will be subject to cross-examination, the planning staff member, and then the applicant will be given the opportunity for rebuttal. After hearing the case, the board will review the case and render a decision. This is usually done following the close of the public hearing and the board's deliberation. However, the board may elect to take up to 30 days to render a decision. You may remain present during deliberations, or you may call the Union County Planning Department after the session to receive the decision of the board. All exhibits must remain with the board. Please hand them to the clerk for tagging. If you feel there's a conflict of interest of any board member or an association that would prejudice your case, please let it be known at the start of your case. We are a quasi-judicial board in this matter and can accept only sworn testimony. No hearsay evidence is admissible. An appeal from this board is to Union County Superior Court. You will have 30 days from the date of the board's written decision in which to appeal, in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 160D-1402. I remind everyone to please turn off all your cell phones or put them on silent. And a quorum, we do have a quorum tonight. Matter of fact, we have all regular members and both alternates. So we meet the quorum requirements. At this time, we will move on to our agenda. First, well, I'll find it here. First item on the agenda is establish our voting members, and as I said, all 7 regular members are here, so all 7 will be hearing the cases. Next item is additions and or deletions to the agenda. We do have one item that we will be deleting tonight, and that is the very first item, which is an appeal, the appeal of a notice of violation, which was CZ 20240012. That matter has been corrected by the individual who was in violation, so it's no longer required us to have that matter, so I will remove that from the agenda. Are there any other additions or deletions that need to be, that I'm not aware of? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Okay. The next item is approval of the August 20th minutes. I believe y'all have those here. We've seen those. Are there any changes we need to make? Or
I have one minor change. The end of the minutes. Instead of adjourned at 6:30, it was now 8:30.
it was 8:30? Okay. Ms. Griffin, you're good with that? Okay. Any other changes? If not, I ask for a motion to approve as amended. I have a second? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? Next item is, okay, let me get to that one. Variance petition number 2024-VAR02. This is a variance application requesting by Monica Starn, requesting variance of 12.5 feet from the 40-foot required rear setback on the property located 6011 Austin Road, more specifically identified by Union County Tax Parcel Number 04-210-015. First of all, is it complete, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do I have a motion to hear the petition?
Make a motion to hear the petition.
I'm sorry. Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, at this time, I would ask Mr. King to come forward, be sworn. All right, Mr. King, let me go back to that section so I don't mess up. They give me all these things to read, and I don't know which. Then I read stuff I'm not supposed to read, all right? All right. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in the matter at hand?
I do.
Thank you, sir. You may present the case.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you very much. The case at hand, as you had said before, is a variance case, is 2024 VAR 02, it's 12.5 foot variance back. At this time, I'd like to enter two items into evidence. First, exhibit number 1 would be the Union County Development Ordinance, and exhibit 2 would be the agenda for tonight, September 17th, 2024.
Thank you, sir. Board, I'd like to remind you folks, if when addressing the crowd, make sure you hit the button and you're not muted, because if you're muted, nobody will hear you. Thank you, sir. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. All right, the property is located at 6011 Austin Road, more specifically identified by parcel number 02-210-015. The applicant and owner is Monica Starnes, who is present tonight. The property is zoned RA40, which is residential agricultural. The applicant, Monica Starnes, is seeking a variance to Table 5, which of the R districts and building regulations. The applicant is seeking a relief of 12.5 foot from the required 40-foot rear setback, which are the requirements for RA40 zoning district. Some existing conditions, standing at the street view looking south, and actual properties down here. But you can see it's farmland, forested area. Looking north, you got some residential structures up here. Again, forested and agricultural uses. Looking from the interior of the property towards the street, the property line kind of is at an angle right here. This area over here that's cleared is actually the adjacent property owners. And then from the same pivot point looking back towards the rear of the property, that property line's right up in this area. In this area right up in here is the septic area. From an aerial view, and you can see what I was talking about earlier, here's the property line. That area that was cleared was basically this area right here. There was an existing single-wide mobile home on it. It was in bad condition, is unrepairable, so the property owner pulled it off, and when they went to pull permits for the new mobile home to be put on there, we realized that it was encroaching into this rear setback, and it needed to get a variance in order to be reestablished. The other thing the property owner has done, and I'll show this to you in the survey, our ordinance calls for the mobile home to be parallel as much as possible to the fronting road, and they have done that with the new proposal here. This right here is the survey that was done by Lawrence and Associate. It shows the proposed mobile home. It's a double wide, parallel to the road. However, because of the existing septic field, the mobile home was pushed back into the rear setback right here on this corner. There's a little bit on this corner too, but this is the biggest encroachment right here. got a blow-up of it, next slide right here. This is showing that the back corner of the mobile home would be 27.51 foot off the rear property line, which would require the 12.5 foot relief. The property, I'm sorry, let me get back. The property is in RA40, and all the surrounding properties are shown RA40 as well. As far as the land use map goes, it calls for this whole entire area out here to be rural residential, in which RA40 and the rural residential will support single and double-wide mobile homes. Development standard, it's got it listed as undeveloped, but I would argue and say it's probably underdeveloped. But nevertheless, that's how it shows up in our documentation. There are no environmental features on the property. There is a blue line stream that shows up, but there is no development planned anywhere close to that blue line stream. And all ingress egress has been there for some time, so it's all compliant with the rules and regulations. As far as the average daily trip, it's looking at 310, so it's a very lightly used road, and there are no improvements planned for this road in the near future. And as far as staff recommendations, when we come to variances, staff does not make a recommendation because a variance is requesting relief to the ordinance. Typically, when staff makes recommendations, it's for special use permits, and staff will make recommendations that may be in addition or exceed the requirements of the ordinance in order to mitigate any adverse effects it may have on adjacent property owners. At that time, I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have, and also the applicant is here to give testimony as well.
Mr. King,
Yes, sir.
was notices sent out to all the local property owners, adjacent property owners?
It was, sir.
Have you had any feedback from that?
I've had 2 phone calls, and when I explained to them what was going on, they seemed like they were okay with it.
Okay. So the mobile home is not there, they're just wanting to get the permits now to place the mobile home?
That is correct. The
Okay.
previous mobile home has been removed
So
from the
they're
property.
going through the proper procedures to start with?
That
That's
is
great.
correct.
Thank you.
Jim,
I
I
have
wanted
one.
to ask you, I noticed on the one photograph or a drawing that the septic is, it doesn't look like that trailer can be moved forward at all.
The septic is in place. There's that drawing that you're referring to right
Right,
there.
yeah.
But I'm not an expert when it comes into environmental health and septic systems. We do have somebody from the Environmental Health Department here tonight to speak to that if you do have questions.
Well, my only question is how close, I know you can't be on top of the septic, but how close could you get to it? That's all.
I will let the applicant and Connie from Environmental Health answer those questions. I'm not real sure what their rules are, to
All
be
right,
honest.
thank you.
Yeah, sir.
Jim, is,
What?
I know you said that staff don't give recommendations or anything like that on this, but my question is, do you see a problem with it?
No, sir, I don't. And before the meeting today, I did speak with Connie from Environmental Health. She had said that in this part of the county, schools are really bad and that they really didn't look at moving the septic system because probably most likely schools are not suitable to move it.
Okay, but that's.
But no, I do not see an issue with it at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cliff?
Jim, access to the building, is that off Austin Road?
Yes, sir, that is correct. They actually have 2 means of access. There's a driveway coming in right through here and kind of curves up. And then there's an existing driveway that comes in right here that serves the rest of the properties.
I just wonder why fight the rear distance by not putting it on the roadside of the septic system.
Well, you have very steep terrain right through here.
Okay.
And to try to place a mobile home in here would be quite challenging.
Okay, that answers it.
Jim, the initial, looks like the single wide it looks like it was awful close to the back set too, was it? I mean, just on, I mean, I don't have a distance there.
It was definitely encroaching into the rear setback.
Yeah,
But from my conversations with the property owner, that mobile home has been there for a long time and may have predated zoning.
right. So my point is that, yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else for Mr. King?
Jen, I have a question for you. The survey shows Madison Starnes is the owner. The applicant is Monica Starnes.
If I'm not mistaken, and Ms. Starnes, I'll let you speak to it, I think that Ms. Starnes is currently the property owner, but she's going to convey the land to her daughter for placement of a mobile home.
Well,
You'll need to get sworn in.
we'll have them come up. Yeah.
Okay.
If there's nothing else from Mr. King, anyone who wishes to speak in, the applicant or anyone wishing to speak in favor or to give testimony, speak against, if you're speaking about this case, come forward and be sworn, and then we will move on to that, at that time. Please, okay, hand on the Bible, raise the other hand, is the right hand on the Bible? Yeah. You swear the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth in this matter?
Yes.
Thank you. Please come forward and state your name at the microphone there, and then
Monica Starnes?
you are the property owner.
Yes.
Okay? Well,
What do I need to do? I mean, you want
well, does
everybody?
anyone have questions for you, or do
Okay.
you want to say anything?
No, I'm just,
Okay. Anyone have questions for Ms. Starnes?
Ms. Starnes, just asking the same thing. You are currently.
I'm the current homeowner,
property.
yes. And my daughter is putting, I'm going to give her the land to put up as a collateral for the double wide.
Okay. You, sir, please state your name and,
My name's Will Lawrence. I did the survey of the property.
yes, sir?
I can address that if you look at this survey, we field located the septic. We put a 10-foot buffer around that field located septic, so we made sure that the proposed location is outside the septic field.
And Mr. King had noted that the front of the property has a incline that would probably prevent or make it difficult to put the mobile home at the
I
front.
believe that to be true, as
Okay.
well as if you did put it there, you'd have to pump to the septic field.
Okay, all right. Okay, any other questions for him? And just come over on, state your name.
I'm Connie Adams. I'm with the Union County Environmental Health.
And you agree with the issue with regarding the field for the septic?
Absolutely, yeah. The minimum setback is 5 foot. However, that's really awfully close when you're doing construction. So, the 10-foot is a good safeguard on that.
Okay,
The other thing I'll mention is that in the long-term interest of the county to put the house, to save the area below for, like some kind of a possible repair, even if it doesn't meet current rules, would be to the benefit of the county in keeping this house habitable, so.
all right.
Can I say
Any
one more
questions?
thing?
Thank you, no.
This, the septic that was put in years ago, and I think, what, in 2017, there was a repair done?
So, yeah, so
Yeah.
there's an old septic that dates to when I'm sorry. So, yeah, so there's an older septic than the one that shows on the survey, that runs from the septic tank down to the newer drain lines. That was put in probably at the same time as the trailer, way back when.
Way back.
In 1993, a repair was put in expanding that,
Okay,
and that's what shows on the survey.
all right,
I just didn't want y'all to think that I put anything on there that
Okay.
was already right there.
I understand.
Okay.
Is there any other questions? Okay. All right, is there anyone here who would like to speak in opposition to this variance request? Okay, you all may be seated. Thank you so much. Okay, anyone have any questions? If not, we'll close the hearing. Motion to close? Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, folks, we have to look at 5 issues here with regard to this. I believe the applicant gave us their opinion, so if we could look at that, if you want to see it. Findings of fact, item number 1. The strict application of the ordinance will result in an unnecessary hardship, but it is not necessary to conclude that strict application will prevent any reasonable use of the property. The applicant noted that the way the land is and how the septic and well are set up, there was a single wide on the property, and we are wanting to put a small double wide. Based on what we heard, evidence given where the septic system is and the field there, that there's really nowhere else to put this. Any other comments?
Yes. I'd just like to make a comment. With the way the housing industry is and the way the prices of land are, I think trying to utilize what is already there is definitely a benefit. If you look at the younger generation and what it's costing to try to put in a well and a septic tank, it's extremely expensive. And I respect you for working with your daughter and giving her the land to help her get a start, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No good? All right.
Make a motion to.
Yes.
I make a motion, we accept that in agreeance with.
So item number one,
Item
motion to
number
accept
one.
it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Item number two, the hardship is unique to the subject property rather than common to the neighboring properties or general public. Again, as you noted, the property is very oddly shaped, and with that septic field, it's kind of impossible to use it any other way without having to go against this. So,
I agree with that.
do I have a motion?
Make a motion with accept.
Second? All in favor, aye? Any opposed? Item number three, the hardship relates to conditions peculiar to the subject property, location, size, shape, topography, rather than personal circumstances of the applicant or owner. Again, shape of the land is what the issue is in the septic field. It goes back to number two, and I think that's obvious. So, do I have a motion? Second? All in favor, aye? Any opposed? Number four, hardship is not a result of actions taken by the applicant or subject property owner, although the act of purchasing property, knowing a variance may be needed or required, does not constitute self-created hardship. Again, that this is the way it's been for many, many years apparently. So I don't see anything here. Anyone? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion with accept.
Second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Number five, by granting the variance, the spirit of this ordinance will be observed, public safety and welfare will be secured, and substantial justice will be done. I think that's, again, we're replacing an old single wide with a double wide. The area is single-family residential. There's not a lot going out there. This is not like we're in the city here. Placing double wide on the property is keeping with the surrounding area.
I agree.
Second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve this variance.
Have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Oh, I think we had a second down here already, but you can have a third. I wish they were all laid out so simple. So, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
We're good.
You're good.
Thank y'all.
Again, I agree with Mr. Davis's comments. Thank you for wanting to, thank you, ma'am, for helping your daughter. I guess you're the daughter.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, thank you. I'm a single mama too, so I appreciate y'all letting us be able to do this.
Awesome.
We appreciate your dedication and want to get ahead.
Yes, ma'am, we certainly do. Okay, so next item. So now we're kind of, you're gonna leave us, or you don't have to, but we're moving on to a different thing now. Our role as a quasi judicial board has ended for the evening, and we will move on to rezoning cases. Our board acts in both areas. As you noticed earlier, we have to take evidence on cases regarding special use permits and variances. But regarding rezoning, we do not have to swear people in, and this is, our board takes a different role. So a little more relaxed going farther. You're not gonna be sworn in if you want to talk to us. So first item, I will call Mr. Bjorn, who's already up there. He's ready on the day. He's always ready to go. This case, I believe, is regarding rezoning case RZ 2024-009. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct. Good evening, members of the Land Use Board. This is a straight rezoning request, 2024-RZ-009. Russell, for the name of the applicant. This is a request to rezone one parcel totaling almost 25 acres from RA 40 to RA 200, meaning that they would go from 40,000 square foot minimum lot sizes to 200,000 minimum lot sizes if subdivided. It's in the Monroe Township, and there's no conditions associated with it, so whatever uses that are allowed under RA 200 would be allowed if this rezoning were approved by the Board of Commissioners. Existing conditions, the parcel is back off of Austin Cheney Road. This is a recent aerial of it, showing cleared land, pond, and previously operated reclamation landfill. This is looking south on Austin Cheney. This is looking west, showing the county's transfer site, and then looking north on Austin Cheney Road. So largely agricultural, large lot residential, although you do have the county's facility immediately to the west. In terms of land cover, a lot of cropland with forested. You can see that a lot of cleared land on site. This is 2020 land cover information. In terms of environmental features, there's a stream with floodplain on the western southern perimeter of the site. The headwaters of the stream going in starts in the middle of the site as well. In terms of zoning, it's all RA 20 or RA 40. That's the predominant zoning in this area. In terms of transportation, again, you can see the property. There's an easement that goes back to Austin Cheney Road. Austin Cheney has a fairly low traffic count, although higher than normal percentage of trucks due to access to the transfer site. No funded road improvements in the area. In terms of the land use plan, it's recommended for rural residential. We don't make a distinction between RA 40 and RA 200, so honestly, if someone were to propose going from RA 40 to RA 200, it'd be hard to find a reason to not recommend approval in this part of the county, because preserving agricultural and lower density residential uses is a goal of the plan. In terms of schools, because this is a downzoning, school system was not consulted, and because no uses are proposed, can't really talk about the sufficiency of utility, but public water is available along Austin Cheney Road. In terms of public feedback, I was updating this slide. I didn't correct this from a sample PowerPoint that I used for other rezoning. I wanted to make sure that this was correct, in that we have received comments with concern about this rezoning, primarily because of the previous zoning violation that was on site for the landfill, which has recently stopped, but there were still concerns over that as a potential if the RA 200 rezoning was allowed, because the follow-on action could be for a special use permit that would allow for the landfill. Monroe wasn't consulted due to distance to city limits. Unionville wasn't either. And a lot of words here. These are found in your consistency statements for approval or denial. There are positives and negatives. Negatives are that this does allow for a range of uses that are possible with a special use permit, so a follow-on action would be required, but you're one step closer to that for things such as landfills, shooting ranges, any kind of access to those uses would be via private easement. Could be challenging to access that with the long driveway to them, as well as truck traffic back and forth on an easement that's not necessarily designed for that type of truck traffic, and especially our commercial vehicles, such as fire trucks that may have to service that if there's some sort of incident. And then the potential land uses from proposed zoning could generate traffic impacts beyond what would be expected from just rural residential uses. But the positives are that it is consistent with the plan. It is a downzoning in the strict sense, and it will lower density on a parcel without direct road access. So we recommend approval of this rezoning, and it is here for your consideration tonight, and then we go to the Board of Commissioners in October. The applicant is here to answer any questions that you may have, but I'm also available to answer any questions that you may have.
Let's
Well,
ask-
I have a question. Did I understand you that they're requesting the rezoning, but they're not given a reason for the request as far as what they're wanting to do with it?
They don't have to for a straight rezoning. Say, I'm currently zoned A, I want to be rezoned to B.
Well, I
If
mean,
it's not a conditional rezoning, you don't have to give a why because there's no proposed uses.
Yeah, but when you make decisions like that, don't you normally want to know why?
You can ask the applicant.
Okay.
You have a question?
Board,
That was the same thing, Mark, yes.
Yeah.
Board, I have a question. If you could just explain the reclamation landfill. Why was it done?
That would be a question for the applicant. We immediately, as soon as we found out about it, went through the code enforcement action because it wasn't allowed in that zoning district.
Has the county done any testing on the material, material used?
I mean, what was stored there?
The fill?
Not that I'm aware of.
Bjorn, can you help me just relation to what, living here all my life, I call the landfill, but you call it now the transfer station. Where is that in relation to this?
It's right over here.
Across the street?
Yeah.
Man, I got you. Okay,
Yeah, you can see the
I see it
service
there.
drive
Yep,
where you
yep.
have the dump areas.
got you. Okay.
Let's ask, so if this rezoning is approved, then they could use that as a landfill?
No,
But they cannot?
only with the follow-on approval
Bid
from
from
you.
Okay, that's clear.
That would require further,
That would require a special use permit going back
basically, they
to
can't
you.
do anything other than, what could they do without a special use permit?
200,000 square foot lots,
Yeah.
greenhouses,
Basically, yeah, okay. Gotcha.
agricultural uses.
Okay. Anything else for Bjorn? If not, I'd ask Mr. Russell if you could come up. I believe you're also represented by counsel, so if you want to speak, you can, whoever wants to speak.
Good evening, Chairman, Board. My name is Jonathan Meek. I'm here representing Ben Russell on this project. It's been a project that we've been working on quite a long time. I have Ben Russell here with me to speak to this. The straight rezoning request is just for that, for this land. The area that's being used right now was initially used for just normal agricultural uses, normal just things that the owners were doing on the land that were part of the allowed RA 40 uses. There were some questions that came up at one point in time about attempting to do a reclamation landfill. There was a permitted reclamation landfill that ended up there, and then there's a whole progeny of information that goes along with that. The reason we're coming back at this point in time to ask for the rezoning for RA 200 is because we believe that that zoning for this particular area gives more access to potential better uses for this land, one of which is the lower density residential, if that could ever be had. The rest of it is all of the other opportunities that RA 200 would afford him, because this is a large agricultural zone, a large piece of property, 26 acres, the uses of which up to this point have proved to be better not being residential. But those things are all things that we've been trying to work through with the county to get there. So I'd be happy to answer any further questions if you have any of them.
Yes, sir. Is there a deeded right-of-way, a deeded access? Although there's not any road frontage, but do you have a deeded right-of-way? Or approval or something? How do you plan to get in and out of this property? It's right here.
If you can see on the map, Mr. Russell's pointing out, there's a road that traverses along there that is a right-of-way that is deeded. It's on the deed, yes.
How wide is that right-of-way?
Oh my goodness, I'd have to go back to the deed right this second to find it, but I believe it's 25 or 30 feet.
The reason I'm asking is if it's 20 feet, it's limited to like 3 houses,
So,
property that could be set up there, but if it's more than that, then it could be a housing development. Is that correct, Lee?
Yeah, if it's 20 feet, then. The land only perks for one house site.
So the entire 20 6 acres only, 24 acres only perks for one home.
Okay, that answers my
So
question.
unless there's sewer provided, which I don't see that happening, we're not looking at more houses.
My question would be just, if this was approved, would there be a housing development going in? But if it only approved for one septic tank, then that kicks that out.
Correct.
And it's also lower density that we're moving to rather than higher density. RA 40 is technically more houses that could be out there. This would be less if it was at all possible from a zoning standpoint.
So what I'm understanding is you're wanting it rezoned just to open up the possibilities of what it could be used for.
Correct.
With no definite purpose in mind right now.
Correct.
Okay.
I have a question regarding the landfill. Was this done under county supervision? Are there permits involved? I'm very concerned with landfills, very.
I'll defer to Mr. Russell on some of the dates and things like that, as to how this happened, because I came in a little bit later than the initial start of this. But discussions began in 2022, late 2022, I believe, into 2023, about the uses that were occurring on the property, what it could be used for, and that sort of thing. When Mr. Russell purchased the property, there was intentions to hopefully do some things out there, like build a house, do that kind of stuff, build a structure out there. It wasn't able to be done due to the current restrictions of the way the land is.
I see.
At that time, there were some issues with, I don't recall, it was burning materials or something to that degree out there, where he was notified of somebody making a complaint in the county. The county and Mr. Russell then worked out a situation where a permitted reclamation landfill could be put on the property of 1 acre or less. That 1 acre or less was operated through the last 2 years with a couple of, Mr. Hanson sort of alluded to a violation that was out there. There was some concerns and a violation around like burning and whether that burning was ancillary to it. There were some concerns and issues around a sawmill that was out there on the property to cut logs and things like that. So the reclamation landfill itself, really all it's there for is to be able to take organic refuse that is either cut down from that property or other properties, bring it in and stack it up to raise up the land that's there. So if you have a low spot in the land, which you can see sort of in the middle there, that was used to raise up the land. So all of the material, to your question that you asked before, was organic. It was trees and stumps and different things like that, okay?
Thank you.
Once that was approved, that's how it operated until just recently, when we worked out a stop and we're going through this process.
All right, thank you.
Anything?
Okay, so what I'm actually hearing is, I feel like the proposed use is some way to use it in a different way than what you was using it before, but the same category of some type of landfill use, correct?
I mean, that's not determined right now, and the reason it's not is because there's all kinds of things that need to go into the abilities to be able to do that. And those decisions are things that we thought we were going to need more time to go through and decide.
Well,
So
I guess my question is, if you really don't know what you're gonna do with the land, why are you requesting a certain type of zoning if you ain't made your mind up what you're gonna do?
So RA 40 is limited to certain particular uses, all of which are not the ones that were listed in the, well, there's a few of them that are there, but you'll see on page, you've got it at page 6. Do you know what page of your presentation this is? It's the staff comments and recommendations section. The very, okay, so it's the very last one on there. The staff comments and recommendations section talk about, thank you, Rob. It already being lower density residential development, it would allow for that. It would also create other uses, other potential uses through a special use permit. So they listed a gun range, reclamation, landfill, mine, renewable energy facility. Any of those things are allowed under the RA 200 that wouldn't be allowed under RA 40 as it is. So to make our decision, to figure out what's going to go on first, we have to kind of understand whether the county's going to be okay with RA 200, period. Looking at the other zoned areas around there, there's RA 40 around there, but the landfill itself across the street is RA 200. So we figured it would be a best way to take a stepwise motion with the county, figure out what we were going to do, figure out what the county is happy with, what they're okay with, and then take it to the next level.
Well, good luck convincing everybody you want to put something like a solar farm when you're in the landfill business. Good luck with that.
Any other questions for the applicant?
I just have one follow-up. And the right-of-way is deeded.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll have that in perpetuity. Okay, thank you.
I have one question. So basically, right now, your options are either keep it in farming or either go to one house on the property. That would be the options that you'd have going to the RA 200. If you come up with other options as whatever, then you're gonna have to come back before the board to get a special use permit. Is that correct, Lee? Or Jim? Kind of confused about this.
So that is correct. If they get the RA 200 zoning, then they're only allowed to do what's permitted by right in RA 200.
That would be what then?
That could be farming, that could be, you can have a nursery in RA 200, housing, you can have a family care home, school, church. There's quite a bit of uses that are allowed by right in RA 200.
Would they have to come back and get a special permit, special use permit for those or not?
Not for those, but if they were wanting to do something like a reclamation landfill greater than 1 acre, shooting range, landscaping business, solar farm, cell tower, all that would require coming to the board to get a special use permit.
Okay,
Okay,
question.
But as the way it stands with the way the property is, they can put a house, they can build one house on it,
That is correct.
and they can use it as agricultural the way it is now.
That is correct.
So the land is available to be used for those two processes, but that's basically all it can be used for,
It can be used for more things under the RA 40 as well.
without a special permit?
Without a special permit, they could do a church, they could do a school, they can do the family care home, they can do a greenhouse, they can do agricultural uses. Stuff like, if they wanted to be an agribusiness, it says in the ordinance, and let me put my finger on that just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure for agribusiness, it has to be RA 200 for them to get the special use permit. Lee's saying he thinks that's correct as well, too, so.
I think all of us are kind of confused on this whole process, is to rezone something, but yet we don't know what we're rezoning it for a lot of options that could come up, and some of them will not have to come back before a special use permit, some of them will. Basically, that's where we're at.
Yes, sir, that is
All right.
correct.
I have a question. Wait a minute, Jim. Now, when you was going over that, what all they could do, you said on the reclamation landfill, they would need a permit for a larger than 1 acre.
The ordinance does allow for a reclamation landfill of 1 acre or less in any zoning, residential
Okay, but
zoning
it doesn't
classifications.
allow it under the RA 40.
Not,
Okay,
Not
there you go.
greater- not greater
That's-
than 1
All
acre.
right, thank you.
To be clear though, the RA 40 does, the RA 40 does allow for a reclamation landfill that was previously there. So RA 40 does that one. It's for 1 acre or less, and that's what that one was and is. So that wasn't the issue. It wasn't operating one out there, a permitted. They came before this and did a special use permit for that purpose before. That was handled as this. So, and again, kind of remarking about the use, go ahead.
the reclamation landfill, 1 acre or less, is permitted by right in all residential zoning districts up to 24 months. So they didn't have to come get a special use for the 1 acre or less. That was approved by
Okay,
staff.
then why was it stopped?
It's got a time frame of 24 months, and the 24 months came to a halt.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
It's got a maximum term life of 24 months,
24 months.
2 years, yes, sir.
So they had got a permit that was good for 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that has expired.
And that 24 months has
Well,
expired.
now, how did they get that permit?
It was issued through staff. So not to
Okay,
confuse.
so wait a minute, let me.
That's about right.
Wait a minute. So, by the RA 200, you could come to staff and get a 24-month permit.
Residential zoning district.
All right,
You
well-
can get a permit for reclamation landfill of 1 acre or less, but for maximum term of 24 months. If you want to exceed that 24 months, or if you want greater than 1 acre, it's got to be RA 200, but it's got to be RA 200 with a special use permit.
Okay, but
Reclamation for what, you're referring to a reclamation?
Reclamation is same thing as LCID, land clearing and inert debris.
So there is special limits on the type that can be put in there.
That is correct.
in other words, you can't put cement and stuff like that. It's got to be something biodegradable, correct?
Cement's inert, so it can go.
Cement can.
You can't do like construction debris and stuff like that. You can do rock, dirt, cement, trees, limbs, land clearing stuff. All that stuff is allowed in a reclamation or LCID landfill.
But no uranium.
No uranium.
All right. Bjorn,
Figure it out.
you stood up, and I didn't know if you wanted to.
Thank you, Jim.
I did. I just want to put a little perspective to everyone here regarding a straight rezoning versus a conditional rezoning. Until about, 10 years ago, Lee? Up until 10 years ago, conditional rezonings for us were not a thing. So this county approved literally thousands of rezonings over 40 years that were straight. So there weren't proposed uses, and life went on. So the fact that they are proposing a straight rezoning is not necessarily something abnormal. It is something that has occurred many times, but I will say that we primarily see conditional rezonings now because of questions about what is going to happen. But there is a downside of going with conditional rezoning, which is you may have to come back and do a subsequent conditional rezoning if things changed, and we have processed many of those as well. So there are benefits to going with straight rezoning applications, which they have the right to apply for.
Well, typically, I believe when we see rezonings in Union County, it's usually to go from R20 to something where where we're going from one house an acre to 4 houses an acre kind of stuff. So it's usually
Sure.
the other way, and this is a different
Sure.
direction.
I'm
So-
just saying that.
Yeah, that's why the conditions usually come up though, because we're rezoning to put housing development in, and that's why, but in this case,
That's correct.
right. Okay. Anything else for the applicants? Okay, gentlemen, y'all may be seated. If we need to hear from you, we'll call you, but we do have, I believe, 4 people who've signed up to speak in opposition. We will start with the first person on the list, Betty Nance. If you want to come forward, Miss Nance. She's listed, her address is 814 Garden Ridge Road. And I will say that we do have,
I have something for the,
oh, so you have something you want to hand out?
and also I want to give every one of them one of these.
Sure. Is this for us to keep?
Yes, that's,
Okay.
that's where people have denied wanting this to be done.
Oh, the petition? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll let you know that we do have a 2-minute time limit, so for each speaker. So if you could, those speaking in opposition, Mr. Davis here is going to handle that. You see him, and he's going to raise his hand when you got 30 seconds left. Okay.
Okay.
I'll try to be nice, but I will give you time to get all this passed out, and so you're not on the clock just yet. Does the board want to read this, or?
Yes, I'd like to read it.
We're going to read it before we let you start. That way we've got an idea what you're going to say. Is that okay?
Okay.
And we won't take your time away from you. So give us a second. Okay. Everybody read that? Okay. I know this is not a situation where we have evidence and all, but we just make this part of it to pass on?
I gave Amy a copy of that.
Yeah.
And then there's a petition, she had a petition as well, that's coming around.
Oh.
We could make sure that gets over.
They'll stay with you and be sent over to commissioners, or how will that work? Or however you want to handle that. Okay, all right, your 2 minutes starts now.
I'm Betty Nance. I am the owner of the 60-foot drive ingress egress used by Ben Russell to get to his property. I had provided the easement to the previous owner, who then sold it to Ben Russell. I gave up 2 acres of farmland to provide the easement. Land I had previously rented to a local farmer. I also paid for the road to be surveyed. I felt I had been deceived by the previous owner who built the road. I thought he was going to build a beautiful house for himself. Instead, he cut the trees from the land and then sold the property. The dirt removed to build the road was supposed to be left on my property, and I was going to sell it. That did not happen because the previous owner took it when he built the road. The current owner, Ben Russell, had destroyed the beautiful farmland, hauling loads and loads and loads of dirt out and bringing in loads and loads and loads of stumps to burn. The dust and smoke, as well as the noise and traffic, have caused problems for neighbors living in the adjoining areas. The requested rezoning would make only things worse. This easement was not supposed to be a problem for anyone. I'll repeat that again. This easement was not supposed to be a problem for anyone. Your decision could affect my family's future. My grandchildren and great-grandchildren would probably wish to use my property in the future.
30 more seconds.
In making your recommendation, please consider how this rezoning would impact the many citizens living in the Midway Church community. There is already one landfill. We do not need another one. Mr. Russell has since January the 25th, 2022, continued violating the purpose of this land as well as a county ordinance. On August the 26th, 2024, 10 trucks came out with dirt and trucks with stumps brought in the next day after he was told not to until after the planning meeting.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next individual to speak, Mr. Carol Russian, located at 2315 McIntyre Road. Okay, Mr. Russian, we'll give you 2 minutes, sir.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Carol Russian. I am located to the south of the project. My house is the closest house. We are bothered by smoke and noise. Several times my house has been surrounded by smoke. Looks like fog settling in the bottom. The noise consists of track hoe, bucket, clamming on rock, dump trucks, tailgates slamming, and air vibrators on the dump trucks. They're very loud. The county landfill is nearby, but it's not as loud as Ben Russell's landfill. The residents along Austin Cheney Road are the ones that really are bothered by it. The county landfill's across the road from them, and Ben Russell's landfill is behind them. Excuse me. Ben Russell has been violating the county since January 2022, and that's what I can't understand, why it takes so long to get anything done. I'd like to mention also that on Ben Russell's deed, the right-of-way for egress and ingress, the description of it is not the one being used. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. That's two different individuals that have brought up the fact that he has violated something since 2022. Are you guys familiar with what they're talking about?
Yes, sir. Very familiar.
Hold on just a minute. I'm speaking to the county representative.
Okay, sorry.
Jim, are you familiar with what they're talking about? Hold on just a minute, Mr. Russell.
Yes, sir, we are. We have actually been working with an outside counselor. This is in the court system. We have got a consent order, which was signed by both county, the property owner, and the outside counsel. And most recently, we have filed, and correct me, Kelly, with the right terminology, but a contempt order. Myself, Chuck Holt, our code compliance officer, and Sash from, correct.
Maynard Nixon.
Yes, met Mr. Russell and Mr. Meeks at the property at that time. We told them from that point forward that they had to cease and desist all activity on the property. The only thing they could do on the property is just general maintenance to the property as needed, but nothing with the landfill operation or anything.
Okay, has he abided by this regulation? It doesn't sound like he has. Sound like he just kind of went over his head and he just let it go.
Yeah, I believe that the last time we were out there was in August, and
August of what year?
August of this year.
Okay.
And then that's when we gave the verbal cease and desist. They said that they would follow through that until that they could petition to have the property rezoned and see what happens from there.
How many times had you asked him for this, to cease and desist? Is that the,
Okay. So the county first started receiving complaints, I believe, in 2021, I don't have the file right in front of me, so I can't tell you exactly. We issued a notice of violation to them. Mr. Russell came in. We sat down, we spoke with him. We explained to him that to do a reclamation landfill of 1 acre or less, he would need to hire a surveyor. He would have to get it surveyed. From that survey, he'd have to bring it in to us. We'd have to review and approve it. We would issue him a zoning permit, and then it was his responsibility to get it recorded.
has he done that?
Yes. He came in, he brought in the survey, we issued the zoning permit to him, and he had, from that date, from the issuance of the zoning permit, which I believe was 2022, I think August of 2022, he had 24 months, and after 24 months, then he would have to close the landfill down. It was right before the deadline was up is when Mr. Meeks started getting involved. That's when the consent order was drawn up by the previous firm that was representing the county. We were going through a transition of going from one outside counsel to another outside counsel, but nevertheless, we got the consent order in place. It was approved by the judge, and it was with, one of the items of the consent order was that they were going to move forward with rezoning the property to RA 200, conditional rezoning, so that they could exceed the 24-month time period. Otherwise, the only way they could exceed the 24 months was to rezone the property to RA 200 conditional zoning, which would take the place of both doing a straight rezoning and the special use permit. It puts them all combined in one process. Since he did not move forward with that, we were receiving complaints in this past January, February, March, about continued operation. The property is posted no trespassing, so the only thing that we can do is sit out by the road and wait to watch the trucks come in and go out, because we cannot trespass unless we are given permission to enter the property.
I understand.
At that time, we brought it back up to our legal counsel at our legal meeting, and that's when we petitioned to have the contempt order filed.
Okay, so this gives a whole different outlook on this whole process. It sounds like since 2022, these issues have been going on, and he has been violating the purpose is what, he hasn't, to me, it doesn't sound like he's cooperated at all. That's good. I think I've heard what I need to hear.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Next individual, Tammy, I believe it's Coppage, is that correct? 2318 Austin Cheney Road.
I live within 40 feet of the easement and work. I live and work within 40 feet of the easement. I've worked hard for 30 years to hang on to my family land that my mom gave me, that my grandfather worked for, which was once a quiet place. I have counted 23 dump trucks coming in the easement with stumps and hauling out with dirt at an excessive speed to where we were dusted out like a dust bowl and we could not be outside. We asked them to slow down. It never happened. We were told there would be no more dump trucks in and out this easement until after this planning meeting. They continued anyhow. For 4 years, this easement has been a nuisance to me and my family. I ask that you please make it stop. Enough's enough. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have one question. The lady that had the paper, Ms. Betty, Ms. Nance, could you come back up, please? Now, we were told a while ago that he thought it was a 20-foot easement, and you said a while ago there's a 60-foot
It's
easement.
a 60-foot easement.
So it, somehow, they were saying it was a 20-foot.
I don't know why they said that, because it's a 60-foot easement.
That's all I need. Thank you.
Okay, the last person who signed up is Mr. Bill Stigall, located 2419 McIntyre Road. Stigall?
I'll just read the comments in the interest of time, if I may. Thank you for listening. My name is Bill Stigall. My wife and I own property that borders this piece of property on the east side and the north side, I believe. And to my knowledge, I've never met the individual who's making the request until I've seen him here tonight. I do understand that he is a businessman and has dealt in real estate for some time. And with that, it's hard for me to understand that he would not have understood from day one when he purchased the property what the zoning was and what it would allow. And my view is he now wishes to have it rezoned so that it will be more profitable and more valuable. My question to the board is this: why would you rezone this relatively small property to make it more valuable when it potentially decreases the value of the land and homes of the many other residents of the area who have lived in and cared for their properties for decades and beyond? I would only ask you to consider that as you make your recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. All right. That's the last person who signed up.
Could-
to speak.
Maybe respond just a brief minute on some of the comments that were made by the county.
Sure. You got a question there?
I wanted to ask Ms. Nance another question.
Ms. Nance, will you come back up, please, first?
You said in the beginning that you had provided the easement to the previous owner, who then sold it to Ben Russell. Who was the previous owner?
Lawson Purser.
Okay.
Lawson Purser.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mick.
I just didn't want to leave a few things that were seeming to be lost in translation, but I wanted to be clear on a couple of things. This property was purchased by Ben Russell from Lawson Purser. The easement and the activity that she was speaking of about clearing the land and doing a lot of those things was done prior to Mr. Russell purchasing the property. When Mr. Russell purchased the property, the initial violation letter I think that was shared occurred, and he went through the appropriate processes to have a reclamation landfill of 1 acre or less put on to the property so that he could bring items on there of organic refuse to be put into the property to raise up the land in hopes at some point in time maybe that land would be flat and could be built upon and numerous other things. He is also a business owner in the community. He has a construction company that does these types of things and clears land, and it was an efficient way for him to bring those things onto the property to do the reclamation landfill. That was a permitted use during that time. Once he opened the reclamation landfill and started using it, he received another violation letter. The violation letter at that particular time had something specific to do with a sawmill that was placed on the property and burning that was occurring on the property. Mr. Russell had gotten burn permits from the county to appropriately burn on the property when he was doing so. He had gone through the processes of getting the sawmill over there so that he could cut logs and other items that were going to go into this to build this area up inside of the 1 acre reclamation landfill. That was the violation that was made initially, and that was the subject of what ended up being the consent order. The consent order I did not bring that to you tonight, honestly, because I did not believe that we were going to be putting Mr. Russell on a trial, sort of, as far as what his participation is in this in the community. So I did not bring the consent order, but the consent order basically said that he would not burn without communicating with the county first, that he would use the sawmill that was over there only for the purposes of making sure that it was used in an ancillary purpose for the reclamation landfill that was approved. So he did those things on the property for a continuous period of time. We signed a consent order. That consent order went over and was signed by the judge. Part of the consent order makes sure that if he decided he wanted to, and this is the contention that is happening right now between myself and the county, if Mr. Russell wanted to, he would go and rezone the property or request a rezoning of approximately the same thing that we're asking for now. February 7th of 2023 was when I was dealing with Lisa Beeman from the previous attorney's office in regard to this, and at that time, I had drafted another pretty much the same thing that we've done, an application for a straight rezoning of RA 200 at that point in time, and that's prior to the consent order being entered. This has been sort of the progeny of trying to figure out what to do with this piece of land, find the best use for it, and those sorts of things. There are current restrictions on the property and its uses that don't allow him to go and build the house that he wanted to do or do any of those projects that he wanted to do. So he's absolutely trying to use it within the ordinances and within the regulations that are provided to him. That's why we're up here today. A notice went out to Mr. Russell that he was in contempt of the order. And the question about the contempt of the order was not about whether he was operating the landfill in some sort of way that it shouldn't have been operated. The request was not about anything that he was doing in violation of the actual ordinances themselves, save one thing. That one thing was that they believed that the time had expired for the permit to have been issued. And then his reclamation landfill closed. We had a differing of opinion between the attorneys about that. In a part of that, figuring out what to do with the property next, he acquiesced to stopping what was currently going on the property while we determined what was going on in the court case and making an appropriate rezoning application. We have appeared, meaning myself and Mr. Russell have appeared before the Union County, what was that group, Bjorn? I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm losing their name right this second. When we made the initial thought to do RA 200 with conditions. What is that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry? It was just a staff meeting with the county to propose a potential RA 200 plan with conditions, okay? The conditions that came back at that point in time were vast. There were a lot of things that were going to have to be changed. Meeting with Urban Forestry and all of the different groups that were there gave me a laundry list of things that needed to be done with the property in order to just be able to run a reclamation landfill on there. Whether it was going to be 1 acre or more was not the question. Just continuing the current use of what it was. If we were going to rezone it to RA 200 and then get these special use conditions.
Question for you.
Yes, sir.
Something that's bothering me is Mr. Russell owns the property, so he should know what his deeded right-of-way was. Why did y'all not come up with that a while ago? Why did you say 20 or 25 feet when the ladies got the evidence it was 60 feet?
I'll be honest with you, at this point in time, I misspoke is really where I'm at. I thought it was enough to get 20, 25 feet. That's what the actual distance or size of the road is that's out there. The fact that it's a 60-foot right-of-way is actually something that is, I know that it's in the record, and I did not have that again in front of me today, but the road itself, I believe, is 25 to 35 foot wide that's actually being traversed.
But Mr. Russell knew it. Why didn't he speak up about it? I'm just curious.
35 versus 60?
No, I guess what we're looking at here is you said there's a lot of difference of opinions. There's a whole lot of difference of opinions tonight on what we've heard is what's actually going on and what was supposed to be going on. And that just bothered me when, that was my purpose for asking for the right-of-way, but I'm just making a statement. No, I don't need
No, I
or
understand.
anything.
And I
I'm just making a
apologize.
statement.
Yeah, the actual road that's out there traverses along another piece, and there is some discrepancy even with the Union County GIS as to where the actual easement is located versus where it is on the actual location of where it is on the map. Okay, so there is some confusion there.
I've got something too.
Yeah.
You've made the statement several times that you were putting the biodegradable stuff in your landfill to build up the property and all that. Well, if you're building up a piece of land, you don't put something in it to rot because there's no solid foundation behind it. So the only purpose you're doing is a landfill, period.
The purpose of a reclamation landfill is to build up the land and do so with.
But it rots and goes down. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just the way nature works with stuff. Either that or you burn it, like evidently somebody's talked about, and then you cover up the ashes, but that's not really what the reclamation landfill is supposed to be done with, right?
My understanding is the reclamation landfill is to be done as pursuant to the ordinance, that it's to build up the land using organic refuse.
But you don't dump stumps in a hole and burn them, though. That's not a reclamation landfill, right?
No, I don't, dumping stumps in the hole and burning them is not, no, I don't think that's the exact definition of what's.
Right, that's just what we've heard here from the people that live around there and live with it. So that's what's obviously going on, unless all these people are gigantic storytellers.
No, I believe that they've seen the trucks going back and forth. I believe that those types of things have been occurring on the road. I believe that it's a gravel road and dust is coming up and back and forth. I believe that all of those things that they're saying in regard to that are more than likely true.
And also the burning of the stuff?
The natural smoke being out there, there have been violations that were made, or excuse me, complaints that were made in regard to violations of the burning. And those complaints that were made in regard to violation of the burning were things that were either addressed, one, by the consent order, or two, he's been required to go to either the county and get the permits to do it if he was going to do anything more, or if he was going to do something any larger than that. There was a violation that was actually made. I think Chuck Holt made a report to the state about this. They came out to the property, did an evaluation, and stated that Mr. Russell was not violating those and could burn legally up to 4 times a year. So the thing is that there's a standard out here that we may be upset. The legal uses for the land may potentially upset those around it, but it's not an illegal use of the land, and it may very well be the best use for the land.
I've never read your permit that you had about the 4 times a year, but
It's in North Carolina State.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that it don't mean that you keep the fire going for 3 months at a time.
I'm confused because the folks that live there are saying that truckloads of dirt are being took off the property. So if we're taking dirt off and we're trying to build it up, that would seem kind of odd to me, but
Looks to me like you're digging a hole to put something.
But anyway, that's another.
Respectfully, I wasn't sure whether they knew what the contents of those were. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, I'm sure they're not
dirt and
moving.
stumps on it, so.
The truckloads are leaving with something, so I don't know. Apparently, they're seeing it. Mr. Jensen, my question is, staff recommendation is approval. I'm struggling based on some things I'm hearing tonight, where that came from, and I guess could you help me understand what the thinking is on the staff side? Because I'm not sure, based on what I'm hearing. I know y'all didn't probably hear what we've heard yet, but.
Chairman, I have a question in line with what you're thinking.
Okay. If we could just talk that first, and then you can follow up.
Sure. So, I mean, yes, we have heard a lot of this. I mean, well, obviously were complaints filed with Jim, and there was an investigation, and there were violation notices filed. So yes, we've heard a lot of those same complaints. And, you know, we followed up with those with violation notices. This is sort of the way we have to look at this is it's a separate process. They are related, but this is separate. And this is a straight rezoning. So when we're looking at a straight rezoning, we have to look at whether what's proposed is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And in this case, it is. The conditional, if this were a conditional rezoning request, we could look at uses. And I think there was a pre-application meeting held in anticipation of a potential conditional rezoning, but I think their attorney said that there was a list of conditions proposed by staff that would make that conditional rezoning maybe not feasible. So they chose not to file the conditional rezoning and to go with the straight rezoning. And again, when we are evaluating a conditional or a straight rezoning, we can only really look at the comprehensive
Right.
plan and what it says. That's why you have that recommendation.
Okay, that makes sense, and the next step would be if it was approved tonight, or if the commissioners, we're recommending. But if the commissioners approve the rezoning, the next step is they're gonna have to come and they're gonna have to swear under oath, and then some of this stuff's gonna be on, to get a special use to do some stuff.
True.
It's gonna be a whole different world that night.
True, yes, that's true.
Yeah.
If a straight rezoning was approved and there were a special use permit hearing, there's a lot more that goes into that. There's a lot more testimony, evidence accepted. And I'll also say that while we're sort of looking just at the comprehensive plan, you as the planning board, since this is a legislative hearing, you're allowed to look at a lot more than I mean, not that we're not allowed to look at that, but we generally evaluate it off the comprehensive plan.
Gotcha.
You're, as a legislative body, making a legislative recommendation, and the Board of Commissioners acting in a legislative manner, are allowed to take into consideration a lot more than that.
Sure.
When you're making your decision.
So basically what you're saying is, if it does get rezoned, if they continue to do what they're doing, they'd have to have a special use permit, correct? As long as it went above the 1 acre.
If it went above the 1 acre, or it extended beyond the 24-month period.
All right.
Which is
And then at the
They can't
special.
keep getting 24-month periods, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
but the special use permit, then this board could put in stipulations about maybe no burning.
You could,
Yeah, right, so that really, I guess when we look at it that way, that's really a better option to fix the problem that everybody's dealing with.
Well,
I think it is, because right now, they can't get another burning permit.
There could also be
It's done.
conditions associated with that conditional
Well,
rezoning.
it may be done, but it's not stopping them, that's what I'm saying. If you put a special use permit, if they had to do a special use permit and they violated it, you shut it down, correct?
They've already shut it down. They've already shut
But
it
it ain't
down. You told them
stopped.
not to, then that's their problem, and I'm
Well,
having.
I guess my point would be, if it went that far, based on what we're hearing tonight, when that becomes testimony,
Yeah.
it's gonna change a whole lot of situations, but I don't know.
Right.
My point being that this is two different birds, but, I certainly, based on what I'm hearing tonight, anyway. Special use permit would be difficult to get passed through me, based on what I've heard so far, but, I don't know that we need to worry about that. But,
I have
So
a question for Lee or perhaps Jim. So where are we with the contempt?
The contempt order was, we went in early September or was it early August? August. Knowing that the case was coming, the rezoning case was coming before the board, we requested a continuation to October the 7th. So it goes back before the judge, October 7th.
I see. So if this board, Jim, just quickly, if this board approves of rezoning, then everything starts all over again.
No, if this board approves of rezoning, they still have to cease and desist all activities with the landfill. The only way they can resume any activity with the landfill is to rezone the property, then come back to this board and obtain a special use permit.
Okay, thank you.
So just
Jim, one
rezoning
question.
doesn't,
If we don't recommend the approval, they're gonna have to stop anyway, is that correct?
They have to stop today, period.
So even if we don't approve it to be recommended, it's done anyway.
It's the only way that it can continue. It would be a two-step process. One, to rezone the property to RA 200, then to subsequently come back to the board and request a special use permit, and the board would have to, would have to approve that special use permit request.
But I think to answer your question, yes, if the rezoning were turned down, that's really it.
That's it.
It's over.
Yeah, they can't move forward.
Okay.
That's what I want to hear.
Any other questions?
Nope. I make a motion to close the open hearing.
Okay. Motion and second to close the public hearing. All in favor, aye. Opposed? At this time, we need to make a recommendation to the commissioners. I believe if you'll look at the tab there, of the yellow, the little yellow tab, it's yellow on mine. I don't know what color it might be on yours, but they're different colors, but it's the one that says
believe it's
Benjamin Russell.
Green on mine.
You see it?
That's mine.
Okay. Just make sure it's the right one.
RZ 2024-009. Isn't that it?
Yes. Okay, so you've got a motion there to either approve or a motion to recommend denial, so,
I'd like to make a motion.
okay, sir?
Recommend denial of rezoning petition RZ 2024-009 submitted by Benjamin Russell to rezone the property appearing on tax map as tax parcel 09040-017 in the Monroe Township from RA 40 to RA 200 and adopt the advisory consistency and reasonableness statement for recommendation of denial.
That's the motion. Is there a second? You have a second?
Sorry, do you have the consistency statement in front of you?
I do.
Can you read that, please?
That's the one you just read?
I just read it.
All of it?
Well, this,
The recommendation of denial.
you have to read the whole red part too? That's not what we normally do, but okay. We're glad to. Yeah.
I would prefer you read all of it.
Okay.
He says, I'm not making a motion again.
She's all over it. We listen to it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna start all over again. Thank you. Okay, recommend denial of rezoning petition RZ 2024-009 submitted by Benjamin Russell to rezone the property appearing on the tax map as tax parcel 09040-017 in the Monroe Township from RA 40 to RA 200 and adopt the advisory consistency and reasonableness statement for recommendation of denial.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's fine. That's
Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. We all do.
No,
And we had a second, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That is 7-0. Thank you all.
Thank you all for your
Thank you all for being here tonight. Commissioners will.
Now this, again, this is just a
This is
recommendation. This is not
Commissioners
it.
will hear this on what date? Bjorn?
For the benefit of everyone who is either an applicant or wants to speak about this, what happens next is we're going to be able to get this on the October 7th Board of Commissioners meeting agenda, where a public hearing will be held. That's where the Z sign will show up in front of the property. So you will receive another letter from Union County Planning letting you know of that. Very similar format where comments will be heard. They may ask questions, but they may not make a decision that night. They typically will take the information, chew on it for a couple weeks, and then they'll make a decision at the next meeting, which would be October 21st. So if you'll see it, if you see another letter in the mail from the county, that's what that's about. That's the decision makers.
I have a question. If you live 3 houses up from Miss Tammy, adjacent to this property, we never received a letter.
Okay.
No
We
notification.
do not send it
Bjorn?
for like a mile radius. We send
Right.
it.
If y'all have any I'm sorry, if you have any questions for staff, yeah, if y'all could, I appreciate it. We got more agenda items. They'll be here and available to speak to you, but, I don't know. Bjorn, you're up next, so if they want to
Yeah.
talk, maybe Jim can help them if he needs, somebody can talk to, if they have questions. If not, maybe it's Lee or somebody. Jim's trying to leave, so. Jim will talk to you. Jim's outside. He may not know the answer, but he'll tell you who to call. Okay, the next item is case CZ 2024-001. Bjorn.
The next two rezonings are not necessarily contentious, but they are a little confusing, just to
Like that one.
explain the proposed actions. They are both submitted by the same applicant, the Rape family, and they are here to speak about it. We call them RA 40 and the second one's LI because one action is to rezone some LI property to RA 40. The second one, which will be coming after this, is to take some RA 40 and rezone it to LI. And when I go through this, you'll understand why. So you'll see that there are some different parcels, some portions of parcels that are referenced here. There is a site plan associated with this because this is a conditional rezoning. And the intent is to essentially clean up property lines between a family business and a home for the family that currently has some uses that are commingled, some residential property that's in the industrial and some industrial zoning that's for the residential. And they want to be able to clean that up, make it easier for administering the business in their home. So on the right, you see the survey, which shows the specific parcel in question, or portion of the parcel in question. This is on 601 south of Monroe, near Claude Austin and Carl Funderburk. On the left, you see the proposed parcels. This is for RA 40. So there's a house already here. You have this portion and this portion that would be part of the house. And their intent is to split this out in the future, but you don't need to worry about that now because for right now, it's just to create this one parcel for rezoning purposes with this portion added to it. You're going to see in the second rezoning where this portion of the house, of the property, would actually be taken out and added to the light industrial portion, which is a family business immediately to the south. So this is the house, and this is the business over here. Here you are looking at 601 South, you're looking across the street, and then 601 North towards Monroe. In terms of development status, this helps a little bit. You can see the house right here. You can see the seed cleaning business right here with the buildings that straddle the property line. That's obviously a problem. So we want to be able to clean that up. So the two affected parcels here are these two right here. You've got the residential right there. You have a small portion right there that would be part of it for rezoning. In terms of environmental features, again, here's an aerial, makes it a little bit better to see. So you've got the business right there, you have the house right there. In terms of zoning, they have a lot of light industrial zoning, which is good for the future. You have the house right there. So the issue is you need a little bit of the residential to go with the light industrial. But for right now, you need a little bit of the light industrial to go with the residential. So that's really the request. It's a land swap. There was a rezoning to the south several years ago that resulted in a conditional zoning down there. You have this island of business zoning, not part of this. In terms of transportation, no projects that are underway, relatively low volumes on Claude Austin and Carl Funderburk. 601 traffic is what it is. No changes to the access or trip generation or activities as a result of this rezoning. It's status quo. In terms of the land use plan, we can justify both because there is both the light industrial and the residential actions because there is an overlay on 601 for an employment corridor. It's about a half mile wide, so it's a half mile off a center line, so it's a mile wide. In no world do we propose that 10 miles times a mile wide, so 6,400 acres, be rezoned to industrial uses. That's not what we're envisioning as a part of the land use plan, but when it works, when the property works, when the access works, when the utilities work, a proposed industrial use is appropriate. However, residential uses are still appropriate for many areas up and down this corridor, especially when you're talking about preserving an existing homestead. In terms of schools and utilities, because this request is a combination of commercial and residential, but no changes in the total number of housing units. Schools were not consulted. No change in the utilities. It would utilize well and septic. There was a community meeting for both rezonings held together in mid-August. There were no attendees. And Monroe was not consulted because of the distance to the city limits. So in terms of our observations and assessments, both positive and negative, the land use plan map does identify this as an employment corridor, and if you have lots of houses adjacent to industrial, it can make it hard to sustain or expand industrial uses because they're, you know, in the big picture, not necessarily complementary. But the positives are that this is an existing home. It helps give them flexibility for their business and for their home. It will not increase the density or intensity of uses, and the land use plan calls for this to be an employment corridor, but the parcels are less than a half a mile from significant rural residential areas. So it's not in the middle of like an industrial park, for example. So we recommend approval. This is a typo. It shouldn't say August 20th. It should say September 17th. So I apologize for that. But at tonight's meeting, you're asked to make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. And so the applicant is here to answer any questions you may have. I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I'll be going through a similar presentation for the next one, but a reverse request.
So like
So
you
really-
say, this is just a land swap to make things easier.
That's correct.
So nothing's changing, it's just moving the property lines to correct the light industrial off the residential to make it a better situation.
That's
So
correct.
nothing's really changing.
Just
That's good.
just the property lines.
Right, okay.
So basically, it just basically cleans up the house plot and the business plot.
That's correct.
Okay.
So basically, you're taking .2 and making it,
Now let me go back to the,
you're taking .2 and making it RA 40, and you're taking .5 and making it light industrial. It's a matter of just a little bit of a swap, and a lot of different.
that's correct. Let me, yeah, so,
Yeah, gotcha. Just to clean it up, so the house is not sitting on the property line and,
yeah, that's the portion in question.
yeah, gotcha. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of questions on this one. This is
I don't either.
pretty simple to me.
I think it's pretty simple, straightforward.
Anybody with any questions?
No, be careful. You ask him questions, he'll try to sell you 2 extra bags of fertilizer. Don't
I
do
don't
it.
wanna do that. Nobody, no questions.
I think we're good
It's
with it.
pretty simple. Anybody have any questions? I wish they were all simple. This one looks very simple. We gotta do them separate, so we'll do.
That is correct.
So the first one is 2024-001.
We need to make a motion to close the open hearing.
Yeah, we can make a motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion to close the open hearing.
I think this is just
Well, I would note, you're not holding a hearing for this. You don't need to close it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, good. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so, yeah, let's, but you don't have to read the stuff in red, so. So, if y'all wanna flip over, whoever wants to make the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, sir.
I make a motion to recommend approval of rezoning petition CZ 2024-001 submitted by Earl and Connie Rape to rezone a portion of one parcel of land totaling .209 acres appearing on the tax map as parcel 04, 036, 032 in Beaufort Township from light industrial to RA 40 with conditions, and a portion of one parcel of land totaling .767 acres appearing on the tax map as tax parcel 04, 063013 in Beaufort Township from RA 40 to RA 40 with conditions including consolidating the aforementioned portions of the subject parcels and adopt the advisory consistency and reasonableness statement for recommendation of approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye? Aye. Any opposed? Next item.
Wonderful. Glad we could get through that one.
Mr. Rape, you didn't have anything to add to this, did you? We just checked, we just want to make sure we wasn't slighting you guys.
So we got the next one here?
This is, yeah, let me just show you the map. So the net result is that you're gonna end up with two parcels here. This one will be the conditionally zoned one, it's the business in yellow, and the remainder will be blue, that's also light industrial, but it will be without conditions. So just wanna note that, and it's shown here, you know, here's the business, it's with all the activity on here, and the remainder to the south is really pasture land and would be zoned light industrial as well.
I'm sorry you have to read it. You don't have to read the red bar. You don't have to read the red bar.
All right.
Are you invited?
Yeah, I recommend approval of the rezoning.
Sorry. I recommend the approval of rezoning CZ 2024-002 submitted by Earl and County Rape to rezone the portion of one parcel of land, a half acre, appearing in the tax map as tax parcel 04063-013 in the Beaufort Township, RA 40 to light industrial with conditions. A portion of one parcel of land, 2.456 acres, appearing in the tax map, tax parcel, this one's longer than yours was, 030360032, the Beaufort Town Fish and Light Industrial to light industrial. Conditions in a portion of one portion of land totaling 2.321 acres, appearing in the tax map as tax parcel 04063-013B in the Beaufort Township from light industrial to light industrial with conditions, including consolidating the aforementioned portions of the subject parcels and adopted advisory consistency and reasonableness statement for recommendations of approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank
All
you.
in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Outstanding.
Thank y'all. Y'all good
And
to
so,
go.
so what's gonna happen for you, your schedule's same as for the one before. We should be able to get the ads in the paper in the EJ this week, which will allow you to get on the October 7th Board of Commissioners meeting, where it'll be same room, very similar format, where the public can come and speak. You can, I'll present, you can come and speak, and if things go smoothly and no one's in opposition, you can request approval that night.
Man, I tell you, if that's
All right,
true.
so the letter will be coming out from us again in the next week or so.
I know Lawson Realty well.
That was both actions were taken care of.
Well, it does make,
Thank y'all.
I mean, I'm a facility.
Y'all have a good night.
Just as one sheet for stormwater.
I think they may still be talking if you want to do the pedestrian map one, wanting to kill time and swap it around. Well, he's doing the stormwater one, that's his. The other one is the pedestrian map amendments.
Nothing for you.
No, this will be me presenting. So, a couple months ago, we presented to you that the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, which is maintained by CARTPO, that Mark Tilley attends as your representative, that map is what we use when we reference new developments for sidewalk requirements. And the good thing about that is that it's a fairly straightforward document to update. What we noticed was that there were some segments that resulted in gaps of continuity along some corridors, particularly Waxhaw Marvin, but some others. And one thing we also noticed was that some areas, particularly in southwest of Monroe, had sidewalk requirements that made sense 10 years ago, but now no longer do. And so we felt that we should consider removing them. So we have almost completed the public comment period. It's September 22nd, so a few more days left. But we've received a good amount of feedback and wanted to get this body's recommendation to the Board of Commissioners so that hopefully we can take it through the Board of Commissioners in October and get a recommendation from them. The map that shows all of the changes is right here. You see all these red dots on there. Those are public comments that have been received. We've received about 20 comments so far. We've also received several emails and phone calls, received a petition that was actually put together for opposition to Marvin's Greenway bond that they put on the ballot last year or earlier this year. And they felt that the opposition to a greenway, to a multi-purpose path, was also applicable to a proposal for a sidewalk. That's in the area right here. Let me zoom in. It's essentially at the intersection of Waxhaw Marvin and Bonds Grove Church. So people in this area have commented that they don't want sidewalks along the road. You can see the municipal boundaries. This is Marvin. This is Waxhaw down here. They aren't colored differently, but you can see how the municipal limits kind of go back and forth. So we really need to be speaking from the same plans for recommendations, otherwise you can end up with some gaps. So there hasn't been any controversy about the section here in Waxhaw. This is Helms Road. There hasn't been any controversy about Crane Road. That's all in the county. But there's been a fair amount of controversy about Waxhaw Marvin and about Bonds Grove Church. So a lot of opposition to those requirements by the property owners, or those recommendations by the property owners, because they feel that they're large lot residential, they aren't going to be redeveloped. There's a lot of equestrian activity out there. They don't feel that pedestrians on the side of the road is consistent with equestrian uses. It spooks the horses, essentially. So that's their feedback from that area. Over here, you have a short section to connect to sidewalks that already exist on, is that Billy Howie? Yeah, Billy Howie. So there's already sidewalks down here, and there was a recommendation right there. We had a gap right here. So this section right here, you can click on it and learn more. It's to add sidewalk from Newtown to Black Oak. This new sidewalk will connect sidewalks along Billy Howie. So they already have recommendations there. This would extend it further south to where sidewalks already exist. Then down here towards Monroe, you have a lot of recommendations for sidewalk going down to Rough Edge, along 200, along Plyler Mill, I think Corinth Church, and Doster as well. And that was back when there was recommendations for sewer in the area. Higher density residential was also recommended as part of the land use plan, and so that made sense. But that's not the case anymore. The sewer recommendations are gone. The land use plan is now for rural residential, so the sidewalk requirement doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And this is wholly in the county. We haven't received any feedback one way or the other. It's been quiet. So this recommendation seems to make sense. And then the last one is up here. It's along 218 to Mill Grove. And this is from the county line because Mecklenburg County and Mint Hill are going to require sidewalks. You have development pressure in this area along 218. So if development were to occur, having the sidewalks along there to connect you into Mecklenburg County with their, you have a park there, you have some commercial opportunities, made sense. We haven't heard any feedback one way or the other about that specific change. So these are the bundle of changes. Again, these are not to propose standalone projects by the county. This is allows us to have something to point to when we want to give comments to developers who want to develop their land, or to the NCDOT when they do things like bridge replacements or road projects, that we can say, yes, we want a sidewalk included on that project. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Otherwise, we're looking for some sort of recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. It could be, we like all the recommended changes, we hate all the recommended changes, we think you should consider deleting certain recommended changes.
Bjorn, now all these areas that attach to the state highway, you like if a builder builds development and the county requires them to put a sidewalk on the side of the main road. I think we determined that once this sidewalk's built, the state don't maintain them, and it would be up to the county on the road side. Now, the builder might be responsible, or the home or association might be responsible inside the development, but if it's on the main road, the state road, the county would have to keep them up later on, correct?
Yes.
Well, that in itself is a good reason to stop requiring a lot of them, because is there a budget to do that right now?
We haven't had to cross that bridge, but.
But the can
when
is
when it does, we will. We'll have
Yeah.
to do that.
Okay.
Any questions? So it looks like we're deleting about as much feet as we're adding. You know,
Yeah,
sort of
I would say that's fair. It's
fair, yeah, so you're taking the red out and
roughly
you're adding the
balanced.
green. So, okay. What, Josh?
I'm good with it. I'd make the motion that we like the
It's a very technical
You have to read,
description.
you have to read 4 pages. So you would make a motion, we recommend approval of this change to the commissioners. Is that your motion? Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
All right, thank
that's-
you.
Okay, let's, one more item, we'll go back to the stormwater.
Bjorn, will this be on our agenda tomorrow night?
For Cardpo?
Yeah.
No, it won't get there until November.
Okay.
Mr. Jensen, we have a text amendment proposal.
Yes, sir.
You will handle that. It looks really like there's one page to read here. You might swear him in? We might swear at him, but not swear him in.
That's right. I'm just going to pull up what you already have in your agenda packet. This amendment is coming to you because as part of the 2050 comp plan process, one of the recommendations from I think it was the environmental committee, said we need to upgrade our stormwater regulations. And then, of course, those recommendations went to an implementation committee, and the implementation committee came back and said, this is how we should do it. And there's actually another part to this that we're still researching. But essentially, we didn't want this to wait because we felt this was pretty important. It was a direct recommendation from the implementation committee that was endorsed by the Board of County Commissioners. So this is the technical language that comes along after all that's done. So essentially, this is applying stormwater standards to all types of development. Previously, it only applied to cluster subdivisions, which is fairly significant part of our development process, but it's not everything. We also applied our standards to usually any conditional rezoning that came through. That was one of the conditions we always asked for. But this would just apply outright to any type of development, whether it was a rezoning or a special use permit or it was a by right development. This would apply to any development that exceeded 1 acre of land disturbance or a 1/4 acre of impervious area. And then they would detain, so previously or currently, our detention requirement is a 25-year storm event. This would upgrade that to the 50-year. Actually, we would loop in the 10-year and the 50-year storm event. So you're not doing the 10-year. It's kind of complicated the way that works, but if you're doing the 50-year, you kind of have to do the 10-year, so that's why that's in there as well. We're also removing, and this last part wasn't a recommendation from the environmental committee, but we felt it was the right thing to do, and we felt like when we were presenting these changes, we might as well throw this one in. Currently, you don't have to do any of this requirement if you're discharging directly to a FEMA-regulated floodplain. So if I build a big subdivision and there's a floodplain next to me, I don't have to detain anything. I can just have all the water go out in that floodplain. The thought process there is kind of based on some sort of old school thinking that you discharge, it goes in the stream, and it gets washed down the stream, and it gets out before a lot of the other developments discharge. There's some truth to that, but the problem is it still impacts somebody downstream. So we sort of talked internally and sort of talked to our stormwater engineer. We felt this was the right thing to do. Was it doesn't matter where the development is, it needs to detain the storm event. So again, most of this is directly coming from the comprehensive plan and the implementation committee, which has all been endorsed by the Board of County Commissioners. This is the technical language that would implement. Part of that would put in the ordinance. That last strike through of discharging directly to the FEMA floodplain, that was a staff idea, but we felt that was the right thing to do, and this was a time to bring it forward. So anybody have any questions?
Now, what establishes the FEMA floodplain?
That's established by specific mapping and engineering that's done through the State Office of Floodplain Mapping. They sort of operate as FEMA in North Carolina. So they go through a process where they look at development that's happened, impervious area, the amount of runoff, the type of storms, and then you essentially end up with a map showing where FEMA-regulated floodplains are. Now, I will say, just because a stream doesn't have a FEMA designation on it doesn't mean it won't flood. One of the best quotes that I ever heard regarding floodplains was actually from a gentleman named Milton Carpenter. He worked for the State Floodplain Mapping Office, and he said, when you read the Bible, the whole world is a floodplain because the whole world flooded. But these are specifically defined areas by FEMA that flood, and they're broken into the 1% chances, which you typically hear called the 100-year floodplain, and you also have one that's the 0.25% chance, which is called the 500-year floodplain. So that's how it's kind of broken down.
Well, the reason I'm asking this is we have property down off Mills Harris Road, which is behind the sheriff's new shooting range. There's a creek that comes across that property. We never had a problem flooding, and it is listed in the floodplain.
Okay.
We never had a problem flooding until they built that development for the sheriff's office. Now, our driveway's getting flooded out. The floodplain is actually bigger than what it says because of the excess water coming down. And there's nothing we can do about it.
And that does happen. So anytime you have increased development, you have more impervious area, and impervious area is hard to regulate because there's a specific definition of what impervious area is, and that's usually a paved surface or a roof over a house, a deck, stuff like that. But honestly, if you were to go out to a forest and cut all the trees down on it and run over it and grade it and run over it with a bunch of heavy equipment, that dirt now almost acts like concrete. It's not pervious anymore. But that's not considered to be, that is considered by the state definition to be pervious. So you can't really regulate it. But so anytime you see increased development, anytime you get a large housing development, especially where they clear cut, you have a ton of impervious area, and that increases runoff, and that plays right into why you see more flooding events.
Is there any funding that's available for situations like ours to where we are having issues with the road washed out and flooding the agricultural property around?
Not necessarily directly related to that. There are some funding opportunities. The extension office has a program, a couple of programs, I think. They may be out of money by now, but they'll essentially go in and clean out the stream. So if there's, debris in the stream, they'll pull that out. One program actually removes it completely. Another program actually just piles it up and straps it down so it doesn't float away in another flood event. But that actually helps a little bit because it opens up the channel.
Well, the reason I was asking I think this is a good idea to help control flooding in developments because of the situation we're dealing with now. If the stormwater is contained and somehow controlled, it's a lot better than it just flooding out the areas downstream.
It is, and this is I think this is what the committee saw when they were making these recommendations, and I think when the board endorsed this, I think that's what they see, is this is a step in the right direction. I mentioned before that there is another amendment that will be coming back to you at some point. We're still researching it. One of them was to, when a development occurs, was to have the developer look downstream to see, what's happening downstream as far as flooding and flood-prone areas to somehow mitigate that. It's a little bit of an extra research opportunity for us. We did ask around to some other counties, and essentially the response that we got back was, man, that's a great idea. When you guys figure that out, let us know. But it's kind of like I've told Bjorn, I kind of like it's a stormwater impact analysis, kind of like a TIA for a development. That if you're looking at traffic, you're just looking at water, and you're looking downstream. Maybe there's choke points, maybe there's old infrastructure that needs to be upgraded, but that'll be coming back at a future date. Yes, sir.
I was on the city stormwater council for 2 years, and that impervious is a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I question with storms that we're having now, and as the severity of the storms are moving farther east, we used to have Tornado Alley, but now they're in Tennessee. So I guess I question why we do 50.
We did 50 because that was the specific recommendation from the infrastructure or the environmental committee that put together the recommendation. We didn't feel like we should go outside those bounds.
All right. So we have a motion. Do we have a motion? Anyone?
And I think you have
There's a
those
consistency
motions
in the one
also in
again.
your packs.
You gotta read.
You don't have to read the whole thing, just the
You
motion.
gotta read here. Where'd I put it? See?
Here it is.
There it is.
Recommend that. This says motion?
Read the whole page.
Just the motion.
Right there.
All right, I make a motion to, what are we, approving it or recommending it?
You're recommending approval
All
or
right.
denial.
I make a motion to recommend approval of the proposed text amendment TXT 2024-001 of the Unified Development Ordinance of Union County, North Carolina, and adopt the advisory consistency and responsibilityness statement for recommendation of approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Sure. All right, thank you, sir. Staff report, anything?
Two of the rezonings that came before you, I believe, last month, is that correct? 2 last month, yeah. Bamboo and Cowick. Those public hearings were held last night, and the board chose to suspend their rules and go ahead and take action on those. They denied Bamboo and approved Cowick.
Okay.
And I think this is a record time for the number of items we had.
I do my very best. That's my goal in life. Do we have an October meeting? We do?
October 15th.
I guess that means
We
there's
will
something.
likely have items on that,
Yeah,
yes.
I see that. I just want to make sure. I saw it. I was thinking it might be a lie, but I guess it's true.
No, we'll be here.
Okay, will I have as many items as this one has? Questions?
I don't think so.
All right, if nothing else, I have a motion to adjourn. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? All We're adjourned.
Yeah, there's like a tool that comes out.
That's what I thought. I was trying to, I can't.
Yeah, no.
It's weird. Somebody must have drawn on it.
Yeah, there's a function. I didn't proofread mine to my slide to make sure it was the right month for the approval.
Do what?
It said planning board's going to consider it their August 20th meeting.
Oh.
That was back when I thought
Oh.
they were going to get to August. I
Okay.
never updated it. to
Yeah, I think
July.
you're right. It's like it comes out like somewhere. I don't know. Don't worry about it. I'll just-
Or you just restart it.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you did it. It's gone. Okay.
No, that's right there.
Oh, you just can't see it on the screen. It's just on.
Hold on. There we go. Found it. You just touch it. Boom.
All right.
Boom. I did it. You just have to touch it.
Oh. That seems weird. That I'm touching it to draw on it, and I'm touching it to.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you, Warren.
Thank you for the discussion. Have a safe drive home.
Gordon, have a good day. I said, have a good day. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you.